Hey everybody, welcome. It's Karen Lanoux here from attractmorenow.com, and I'm so glad to be here with you today. Today we're going to talk about how to create those innovative ideas. Where does innovation come from? Where do those really great ideas come from? And just before I get started, what I do is I help people uh, gain the confidence to move forward in their business and in their careers. So they're moving towards the top of their field. And so that, in a nutshell, is what I do. And what I'm doing here in these sessions is just to kind of share some tidbits that I know that come up with people or for people on an ongoing basis. Again, whether they are working for somebody else or whether they are in their own business. And so, again, today, innovation. How do you come up with those great ideas? How do you get past those blocks? Because what happens when a team gets stifled? What happens when your business becomes stifled? Because it's kind of like you're living a Groundhog Day over and over and over again. And so, what we do is, and what we see, and what I see again for my clients is that they just get stuck, and they just and their business doesn't change, or their careers don't change. They can't move their teams. So again, if you're working for somebody, you can't get your teams to move. You're not coming up with those great ideas to actually move your team forward. Or again, in your own business, it's like, okay, again, we're living Groundhog Days, where it's like, okay, I really want this to change, but I have no clue. And we keep asking. We'll ask, okay, well, what would make this change? And we start, we'll do Google searches, we'll ask people, and and what I hear people say on an ongoing basis. And here's what I want you to do. I want you right now to take those three words, I don't know, out of your vocabulary. Okay? I want you to remove them completely, because what they do is that they stop you in your tracks. When you set your brain up, when you set your subconscious up to kind of go, oh, she doesn't know, it stops looking for a solution, and we don't want you to do that, right? So get rid of I don't know out of your vocabulary. Again, I see businesses just tank because can't come up with ideas, or they can't solve some problems that have been recurring in their business. They can't actually even see those solutions, and part of that problem is because they keep saying I don't know. And again, when you say I don't know, your consciousness doesn't allow, or your subconscious doesn't allow those great ideas that will solve your problem into your consciousness, even when you're looking for it. And I know it's the craziest thing, but if you don't think you can find the answers because you're saying I don't know, you won't find the answers. And again, with teams, let's say you have a client and you're trying to solve a problem for them. How do you come up with those great ideas? Now think about the likes of Edison, of Beethoven, of all those great Da Vinci, all those people, those amazing people. Part of those Einstein, part of the process that I know that some of them do, I would venture to guess all of them do, is they ask great questions for one thing. So they ask great questions, and then they just let it percolate, right? So I think it was Einstein. It was either Einstein or Edison. And what they would do is that they would sit down in a chair and they would kind of start thinking about the problem they wanted to solve. And I think they had they held something in their hands, and they would just kind of think through it, or just kind of think about it, just set it in their mind. And then they would just kind of doze off, kind of go into a meditation or kind of doze off. And then when whatever was in their hand fell out of their hand, that was just at that point of kind of between consciousness and unconsciousness. And in that semi-conscious area, that's where those great ideas come up. That's where they kind of, when we let our mind just kind of go and expand, amazing things start to percolate, because we're not getting in the way of it. We're not trying to think not trying to manage it. We're not trying to figure it out. See, here's the problem. When we try to figure things out, we're not actually allowing all that great infinite intelligence that's all around us. We're not accessing that when we are going into that idea of, I'm going to figure this out. I'll give you my own example. Years ago, I was specifically wanting to know, I just wanted to answer this question. It's like, how do I monetize my podcast? And I just didn't know. I just didn't know. I wanted more information around that. And so I asked the question. And so part of one of my journals that I created, the Year of Wow, what ended up happening is I created the Year of Wow journal just because I just thought that was it was just a great way to lay out and say, okay, I want to start asking questions. I want to be documenting this. And so I started to write these things down, and I wrote down the question every day, what would it take to monetize my podcast? And so I started writing that down, and I tell you, within a month, the answer showed up. And what I also tell you is that the answer was already laying in my Kindle, in my Kindle. I had bought a book months before, maybe up to 6 months prior, but I never looked at it. I never read it. How many of us do that, right? And the book was there. And so as I was kind of going through and asking this question, and here's the thing, ask the question, but then step back and don't try to figure it out. That's where we got it. That's where we start to interfere with the process, with the creative process of creating that innovation, of creating those wonderful ideas, is that we're actually trying to figure it out. And when we're trying to figure out things consciously, we're only accessing what we already know. And if we already knew the answer, we would have figured it out, right? So what I did is just started writing down the question every day, and suddenly one day it just came to me because I was more open to it. I was more focused on that question, even though it had been years that I actually wanted to figure it out. So then I kept asking the question, and my mind was more receptive. And that's what I was doing, is I setting my mind up to be more receptive because I wasn't trying to figure it out. And all of a sudden, the ideas started to percolate to me. They started to kind of bubble up. And that's just my terminology, but it just started to bubble up. And you'll know the difference between when you're trying to figure something out, you're trying to think it through, as opposed to bing, an answer, just a new revelation, new answer just kind of drops into your brain. There's a big, big difference. And so, and that's a key distinction to start to make. But what happened for me then is I kind of was led to this particular person and thinking about his name, and then it's like, oh, I think I bought a book from him. And so I went back and looked at the book, and sure enough, I started to read through it, and the answer was there. The person that I needed to access next was there, and I did, and it gave me the information that I needed. And so after years of trying to figure this out, right? So that's how innovation comes, is by asking the question and not trying to figure it out. And I know that seems completely not intuitive and against everything all of us have learned. Because again, if you're in business for yourself, you're in business because you're good at something, good at what you do. If you are working for somebody and you've risen to a level where you have a team where you're the ones that's supposed to be coming up with those great ideas, you got there because you are great at problem solving. And so going into this idea that, oh, I just need to ask the question and, kind of step back and let the answer bubble up, it just seems wrong, right? It's like, no, I got to figure it out. I got to do my Google searches. I've got to, go through and ask people questions. That can be part of the process, but do it after you get that inspiration about where to go, because otherwise it is just empty activity. And you and I know we all do that. We've all done that, where it's just like we spend all these hours and time, slogging through and trying to, work it through and figure it out, and it doesn't work. So that's the way. That's one of the ways to start getting, finding that those great ideas, those big ideas, those great innovations is allow them to show up. Ask for them, and don't try and figure it out. So I'll leave that with you today. And again, if you are just tired of kind of slogging through this process by yourself, again, wanting to move yourself in your business or in your career forward, then please connect with me. Just go to talkwithmeaboutthis.com. It's going to take you to my scheduler, and let's have a chat about this. So today, what I would love you to do is, if you like this video, just go down and just give me a thumbs up and like, or a heart would even be awesome if you loved it. And I will see you on our next live stream. All right, go out and do your magic. Bye-bye.